Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this week's small group tutorial video based on Peter's first sermon in Acts chapter 2. And this is a really significant part of the Bible, Acts 1 and 2, where the church was really established when the Holy Spirit came at Pentecost. So there's a lot for us to learn from today, and I hope that you're excited as you look at this passage. Jesus, to give some background, Jesus had just ascended back into heaven and told the disciples to wait for the Holy Spirit to come. So the first question and the first couple of questions are about what happened just prior to Pentecost and after Jesus ascended. So the first question, what two instructions did Jesus give the disciples in Acts 1, 4 and 5? And then what did they do in that interim period, and how long was that period while they were waiting for the Holy Spirit to come on them? It must have been such a fascinating time for them to just be in a room praying and just waiting. And there's a lot to be said for being patient and waiting for the Lord to act. And often we get ahead of God and want to fix it ourselves. But for a period, I don't want to give it away, but for quite a few days, they waited and they prayed and they expected the Holy Spirit to come, even though they weren't sure what that was going to look like. So on the day of Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit did come, what happened? In Acts 2, 1 to 13, must have been such an amazing event to be at. Kind of scary but exciting at the same time, and maybe you could have a talk about what would it have been like to be there. And can you think of a time in your life when the Holy Spirit has moved in some supernatural way and just blown your socks off? So Peter then got up and preached after all the people from the world at that time had heard the gospel in their own language in a supernatural way. Peter then must have quieted the crowd and said, look, now I've got something to say to everyone. So he got up and he preached, and his sermon was spirit-filled and it was Bible-based. Now, why do we need both of those things? I had a quote in my sermon which said, if we have the Bible without the Spirit, then we dry up. If we have the Spirit without the Bible, we blow up. But if we have the Spirit and the Bible, we grow up. So you might want to talk about what that actually means. And then what was the fruit of Peter's sermon? It was an amazing outcome that established the church and put the church in a place where it could grow and multiply, and it's really why we still have church today. So talk about the fruit, and then perhaps talk about what sort of fruit we can expect in our lives and our ministry. Wouldn't it be great to see something like what happened at Pentecost happen in our church or in our lives, in our ministry? And Jesus said in Acts 1:8, he really gave us a promise about the Holy Spirit. What does that promise say, and what can we expect? So this week it's quite an exciting study, and I hope it really generates some really interesting discussion and some real hope for what God might want to do in your lives and in our lives as a church. Have a great study.